Hello, this is Rahul from Opus. Today we are going to discuss how we can use the design principles in uh, designing this plain piece of information which is about a missing dog poster, and how we use this raw information and design it in this given space with the help of design principles and come up with a effective an effective poster. So as you see, here the information is about, suppose this is, you might consider this is as the title, this is the subtitle, this is some general information about the dog, and also as a little bit of information about its last scene or from where it was missing. This is the reward and this is the contact information. So you will find in most of the various posters, you will find informations divided into this way. And as a designer of a poster, you have to have the ability to use these design principles to arrange it in a given blank white space, so that it becomes very effective and also looks interesting, and people also finds the necessary information easier to read, and it helps them get the necessary information, and you also get the required desired like desired outcome or the desired feedback from the viewers. So let's start with, so first we will use this title itself. So if I drag just the title itself and change it to a font which is very bold, because our title always has to be very large and bold, and so that it is readable from a distance. So that is how we are going to give that treatment to the title itself. So let's make it as large as possible. Good enough. So, and if I make it in uppercase, so that gives me much more impact. Okay, so this can be pushed a little more. So if you see, yes, so this is fine for making a first impact towards dragging attention to the users, for the viewers, so that they gets what we are trying to say. And then for the next piece of information, which is this subheading, so for that I will use a smaller type, and that can be of this size, and a little, this one is a subheading, sort of a subheading, which generally tells people like what this poster is all about. So as you see, I am using here, if you see, I have first used the design principle contrast, which is the size or the weight. So this one is high contrast and this is not that high contrast, so the attention directly goes to the first element itself, which is the heading. So that is why that has been made super bold and also impactful, and a given type of font has been used in there. Okay, after that I can directly go play with the image itself. Suppose if I want to place the image, and so there is something called directional movement in a given composition. So if I place the image here, so it looks it on the left side, so I can easily I can try with changing the orientation of the image, so that it looks much more engaging in the image itself. So now you see the image is on the looking at the right direction, so it will generally looks much more engaging, because it is giving a direction into the poster itself. So if I make it a little more smaller and crop it, so that would be good enough for my poster itself, because only the face itself is required for identification. So in posters you have to be very precise, very considerate about how much space you are giving to which element, because there are lots of information that has to go. So I will crop the image accordingly, and that is how you shall also adjust the space in your given designs. Okay, after that I will do some treatment with this piece of information, which is the general. So I will just take help of this piece of text itself, and let's arrange it somewhere here and place it like this. So this one goes, I can copy and place it here. So thus you see, I'm slowly building upon all the information that is given and trying to place it in our given space, which would help me build up the entire poster. Okay, so I can make it a little more larger, and so that it covers most of the space, many more, like a large amount of space in the poster itself, because image itself is the primary factor for identification, and also creates a good good impact, because images are always the first point of contact, or a point of like where people gets interested at the first instant. So let's make this portion a little bit smaller, like this, or 1 point size larger, so that it fits the entire box without, that is fine enough for my purpose. And I can make this one bolder, or like this. So our second pieces of information is slowly getting into place. And since the name is also of prime importance, like what is the name of the dog might respond to that name. So let's make it much more attractive by using the same font that we used for the heading, and it can be made a little somewhat larger. We can push it further. So these decisions you need to make first, because here I can edit in the software itself, but if you are doing on pencil on paper, you have to make this decision with rough sketches first. So I would suggest, like whatever your layouts are, you can sketch it out 2 or 3 times in a paper, and then you go for the final design if you are doing the letterings just by hand. Okay, here we are discussing how to use the principles and how a given piece of information can be arranged. So that is also like is mainly on the thinking level, and when you are trying to apply the same thing on a question paper, in the answer sheet in a given examination, you have to think it out by sketching. And if you have these principles right in your mind, it will be much more easier for you to execute. So that is how we are trying to design this lesson for you. So let's make that reward thing somewhat larger. Yes, this is the size which creates good impact. So see, I am trying to create like lots of using alignments and also contrast to create certain interest in the arranging of the information. So none of the information takes the, like which information shall take the first priority and which one shall take the second priority, even without getting lost. That is also important. Okay, and after this I can just copy this one and paste it here in the next line, and rename is as reward, because people gets attracted to the number first, like what would be the reward if they puts the given effort to find the dog. So that's why this is one of the motivating factor to some of the people who might put some effort in seeing the dog itself and informing the owner. So that's why this number is being made such bold and also attractive. And see, at the same time I'm using this, you need to understand which principle of design has been used here, and it is mostly contrast. Okay, and after that also here you see the proximity principle is also in application here, because 200 and reward, these are two close pieces of information. Here also you see proximity has been used because it is the general information about the dog itself. Here the heading and the subheading with the principle of proximity has been used. So you need to keep these things in mind so that you can have a good understanding while if you have a different set of information for designing. So that is how you learn to use the principles of designs in a given scenario where lots of information has been given and you have to design it in a given space. So this is a general information, and we can make it center aligned and keep this piece of information in the last line so that the entire name of the park can be read at once. So these are also some finer decisions that you shall start understanding how to make it. And let's not go for any hyphenation. So you can keep the January in the second line, 4th January itself, and there is a slight spelling error. So see how my poster is slowly starting to build up. So I might need an extra piece of space in the bottom, so I just push up the entire composition a little above and then just drag the same piece somewhere here, and I will use the same size for the number, which is just a fictitious number for remembering 7890. Now if it doesn't fit, then we have to adjust the size a little. So all these decisions you have to make in a sketch level if you are doing with pencil and paper. Okay, but the decisions can be made very easily if you are sketching it out and know the design principles well and how to apply it. And you can have this ability only if you practiced and have seen many posters of similar kind, and also identify it with the kind of principles they have used in different posters. So you can, this is one example. You can also try upon various other posters and match it whether they are also using the same principles while designing it. So once you get aware of this like this principle, how this principles comes into play, you will start seeing these principles in almost every kind of designs where you have to arrange text and images in a given space for communication purposes. So let's make this uppercase and slightly smaller so that it fits my entire space. So, and I will make this center aligned. So see, if I now push this a little bit down and also push this a little bit upward, so now my entire composition, see, if I move away everything, my entire composition starts looking into place where it is different from the previous raw information. Now I will make slight adjustments. So suppose I bring this a little downward so that there is some breathing space between that paragraph and this one. Okay, and I can make this text somewhat bolder than the previous one. So there will be certain, and I will bring this one at some little more closer to that one so that these two becomes like in close proximity to each other and this becomes one group. Okay, so see, now there is a clear distinction between the various pieces of informations and how the principle of proximity is in use here. So that is one thing that you need to constantly achieve, how various principles of designs are being applied in a given design, because that is what your make or break your design. And you can also see I can push this one a little further, so that is also creating a clear distinction between the entire composition. So now we have all the information at the given space, and this one can be moved a little down. So there you see I have a nice composition from all this, from this raw information. Okay, now we see that. Now let's evaluate what are the principles we have used here. Like if you see the contrast, we see the contrast over these bold letters. If you see alignment, this is mostly center aligned. Here this box is left aligned, this one center, this one center, and this is depends from person to person how they arranges a given information, but we see everything in place and ordered and nothing looks that scattered, and that is how design principles are applied. And for proximity, as I explained before, all the pieces group, you see separate pieces of information grouped separately. So that is how proximity is applicable. And repetition, you can find the repetition of these strong bold letters which has been applied like in various places. So that is one thing, that is one area where repetition has been applied. The repetition can also be applied. So suppose if I use a different method, suppose I create a bar or a graphic. Okay, so suppose a graphic like this and then a graphic like this to create some amount of interest. Okay, so you see the color red now is being repeated here, and I can also do a little another adjustment. So see, if I create a black box here, okay, don't worry about the information, I will bring it back with a different color. Just observe how it is being used. Okay, so suppose I have this black one and then I go back for the text and I change the color. So now you see the posters start looking much more interesting. Okay, and it has a clear distinction between others' information and also creates a lots of focus into the information where I want to drag the viewer's eye. Okay, now this final one, I can also change this one to white. So now you see, I can this is the repetition of the use of the principle of repetition, and also here it is also contrast, because I am using very high contrast colors in the background to create interest. And that can make my design look much more interesting. So if I now remove the guides, now you see we can make some finer adjustment and then can finish off my poster itself. So this thinking, like what elements to use, where I want to bring the focus, where you want to create a dynamic adjustment of the letters, that is should all be decided in the sketch level, so that you don't have any like difficulty in executing your final idea and you mess up with your final design. So everything you can sketch it out in a given like piece of paper with the colors and all the things that you need to do, and then you can go for a final neat and clean execution of the poster itself. So after I got everything in place, I can make some finer adjustments, and that can bring a poster which would be much more interesting to look at, and it is also clearly communicating the given informations. So let's just have a look. So here you find contrast, yes, proximity, the repetition of colors, and also this principle of alignment. So every principle of design has been used here, and this can benefit you in understanding how to arrange text and other information in a given piece of given for a poster, where you need to arrange information, which is very vital for most of your design questions that might come for in the exam, in the NID, wherever you see. But this application of this principle is very important to understand. So I hope this lesson helps you. Thank you.